Hello, Emily here. I'm a sustainability specialist with a master's degree in leadership for sustainable development. I also have a bachelor's degree in sociology and social work. In the landscape of fashion, entrepreneurship, creative, and the cultural aspect as well, I've got about 15 years experience there. I'm happy to make this presentation again, and it's about the Audacious Swan Diva series discussion on kingdom feminism, where I make inferences of some biblical texts and correlate them to the present day sustainability or sustainable development goals, whilst also making some connection with some scientific research that have been done by modern feminists, feminist authorities and researchers as well. So without much ado, you are welcome. Do not forget to recommend, subscribe, and share the perspective and the gospel, good news, with and also this different introspection and perspective on the feminist movement or the feminist perspective, and also the sustainable development goals like the goal 5 and goal 8, gender equity and decent work and economic growth respectively. Without much ado, today I am making these inferences on two monumental women here. They are Priscilla. Priscilla is usually called alongside with her husband. So Priscilla, and also another woman who was also very monumental during the time of Paul is a woman called Phoebe. So as I have said, Priscilla was usually or is usually named alongside her husband, who is Aquila. They were a very powerful duo, a powerful business or vocational trainers. They were into tent making. So Priscilla was equally skilled in that landscape as well in terms of vocational and technical skills development, which also is part of the Global Sustainable Goal 4, an aspect of which in where it also extends to outside the four corners of the classroom. I'm talking about the informal education in some parts of the world. So I am taking Priscilla's experience or her documentation from the book of Acts, chapter 18, verse 1 down to 7. I'll just read it and say, After this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. There, he met a Jew named Aquila, a native of Pontus who had recently come from Italy with his wife Priscilla. Yes, that's a powerful team there, duo. Because Claudius had ordered all the Jews to leave Rome. Paul went to see them because he was a tent maker as they were. He stayed and worked with them. Every Sabbath he reasoned in the synagogue trying to persuade Jews and the Greeks. I'm going to take the verse 3 again. It says, and because he was a tent maker just as they were. So Priscilla and her husband were a duo. They together had a joint business, which is the tent making, of which, of course, Paul was also a tent maker. So this is why I want to draw I'm making a correlation with the present day sustainable goal, which is got to do with the gender equity. And what are the feminists arguing, or what do the feminists say about the meaning, or what is the meaning of a feminist in the first place? So a feminist is someone who believes in the social, political, and economic rights of both the man and the woman, both genders. And so here we can even see that the text is referring and acknowledging the capability of Priscilla alongside her husband. So Priscilla is also being credited for her skill in that area or in that vocation as a tent maker. And of course, she was also a businesswoman. She knew about the entrepreneurship of the tent, making the tent. Yes, I know that making the tent goes beyond just making the fabrication. Yes, so I know and I believe that she knew where to get the raw materials for the tent, how to do the bargaining, for the raw materials for the tent, and of course fabricating or manufacturing the tent also by herself. That is why it is said that the verse is also saying that Paul went to Priscilla and Aquila because he was a tent maker just as they were. So as a gender, in terms of gender equity, Priscilla was allowed, or she was encouraged, she was urged, she had the freedom, she had the capacity, and she had the freedom to also exercise her skill in the tent making. And I believe she wasn't just an amateur. She is a very skilled person or a skilled woman in that field of tent making. If today in some parts of the world we would say that she was a welder, but I believe it even goes beyond that welding, because she would buy, she would do the procurement, she would do the negotiation, she would take in clients, she would record, she would also make the design of the tents, she will manufacture the tents and also sell this, thereby engaging in the economic activity, which is the sustainable goal 4. And in fact, sustainable goal 8, which is the decent work and economic growth. As a matter of fact, I argue that if Priscilla and her husband, or Priscilla, let's say, her business alongside what she was doing with her husband as tent makers wasn't flourishing, they wouldn't have been able to even host Paul in the first place. So she was a very capable partner as a wife, of course, and also in this particular discussion as a businesswoman and as a skilled entrepreneur, thereby even expanding and taking this partnership alongside with Paul. That is why Paul, when he returned from Athens, he decided to go to them and then do the trade or do the manufacturing with them on the working days of the week. So this has been Priscilla, who is usually mentioned alongside with her husband, Aquila. Yeah, it's such a nice rhyme, isn't it? Priscilla and Aquila. Yes. So in drawing deeper into that, we say she had a broader worldview to Ephesus, spreading the gospel and also being a communicator. She was very communicative. She was well outspoken. That is why she could also communicate and then also spread the gospel at the time. Then of course the spirit, I believe that the God has created man and woman in his image, and the spirit of God lives in man and woman. Therefore they have all been given the grace and the capacity to do the proclamation and also to teach people about the gospel, thereby drawing it to the fact that she was intellectually capacitated. She had a lot, she was educated about the gospel, not just about the gospel, she was also educated in her job, in the landscape and the economic and the vocational skill landscape where she found herself in, which is making the tent, as it has been said already. So making inferences again and making a comparison, this is something that the a woman, she has been empowered through the intellectual capacity and also being skilled and employed, making and fabricating and the tent and getting income to support herself, take care of herself, and also to support the family, I mean her husband as well, and by extension even hosting a missionary from another country. So she was even into hospitality, if you may that I say so. And so she being empowered, and this is what the feminist scholars also say about the empowerment of a feminist. That is what Mohantry Chandra in 2003 said, that a feminist view empowerment as a unified solidarity by women to fight the commonality of oppression, discrimination, and violence against women in the community and also different cultures. So Priscilla as a person, she had a strong conviction in her job, and I believe that she was making giant strides and rubbing shoulders with a male counterparts as she formed a formidable team with Paul and her husband in the socio-economic or even the cultural landscape at the time, as it is being read. So on that note, I move on to another personality who was also involved in the economic aspect as well. Her name is called Phoebe. And we can find Phoebe in the book of Romans chapter 16, verse 1 down to verse 2. So this is what it says. I commend to you our sister, Phoebe. Phoebe was very commendable. She was noticeable. She was reputable. That is why she is being commended. And so it says, I commend to you our sister Phoebe, a servant of the church in Cenchrea. I ask you to receive her in the Lord in a way worthy of the saints. Great. And to give her any help that she may need from you, as she has been a great help to me and many people as well. Verse 3. Greet Priscilla and Aquila, my fellow workers in Christ Jesus. They raised their lives for me. Not only I, but all the churches of the Gentiles are grateful to them. So this is a network. It's a cartel, Paul's cartel that Paul is writing to the people, and then urging them to receive Phoebe, who was equally prominent at the time and also supportive of the gospel. She was also educated in that area as well. So Phoebe is considered as a trailblazer in the gospel of the ministry, because she was educated, she had understanding, and as I have said already, the Spirit of God has no respect for gender. It filled Phoebe just as it will fill Paul, and she was capacitated. I mean, she was enabled to be able to read and to write, to teach and to educate people at the time about the gospel. That is why Paul is even recommending her. So this is a respect that Paul is even giving to Phoebe as a co-servant in the gospel. It didn't matter whether she was a woman, but once she was capable of being a good teacher and sharing insights and being educated and educating others in the gospel, she was giving her due respect. So if it were today, maybe she would have been like a rector in a university. She would have been a rector in the Bible school, I guess. She would have been in the top leadership of the of of the gospel in institutions in the land, then she would have been very respected, or as well, due to her strength and due to her confidence in sharing and teaching the gospel and helping to educate and elevate others as well. So this is got to do with the Sustainable Goal 5, gender equity. Furthermore, she defied societal oppression and also gave to Paul's ministry. Intellectually empowered and well-educated and conveyed the real and conveyed the message and the letter Paul gave to her. She was trustworthy. Aside being trustworthy, she defied societal oppression. That is why Paul is even saying there, I ask you to receive her in the Lord in a way worthy of the saints, and give her any help that she may need. So she actually had paved the way, and she had owned her dignity and her respect within the society. Once again, I'm happy to also make a very direct inferences into what the Hasheimi et al. In 1993 also came out with a domain about an empowered woman. They said that she had, amongst them is the mobility and visibility, and also participating in non-family groups among these indicators of among these domains of an empowered woman. And this domains came up when Hasheimi et al. In 1993 made an economic scientific research in the rural part of Bangladesh, when the women were given financial support to trade. So through this, that is when they came up with these domains, including the participation in non-family group, and also the sense of vision and self for the future, and alongside mobility and visibility. So in essence, this is what Phoebe was, because Phoebe had the freedom, she had the grace, she had the capacity to travel from one place to the other, to go and minister, or to go and support, establish another branch of Paul's ministry. So this has got to do with going against the societal norms and taking up this giant stride by herself and going on, because she's capable and she has a sense of self. She was she was graceful, and she was convicted in her capabilities. Therefore, she could move and then spread and teach the gospel to other people. That is why Paul encouraged them to receive and give her all the necessary support that she would have needed. Right. And so without this has been very insightful for me myself, going through all this and making an inferences from biblical perspective, and making directly correlating them to the feminist ascension of women empowerment, and yes, of course, drawing in and connecting them to the sustainable goals. I want to even bring in to say that when she was traveling from one place to the other to support and to help establish another branch of Paul's ministry, she became an immigrant at that point in time. So Paul was even acknowledging and admonishing the people to empower her, to continue to empower her for her ministry or for her job, her daily life to be less stressful than it would have been otherwise. So these women were very, very vocal in their time. They knew what they were about and they were very influential. That is why I keep saying that feminism has been in God's agenda and it has been upheld through the time immemorial. So this has been the Audacious Swan Diva series of the Kingdom Feminist perspective on gender equity or women empowerment for that matter. Thank you, and I hope to catch up with you sometime soon. Thank you and enjoy this. Thank you very much. Bye.